Welcome back to GSBA TV. I am Denise Santos, and today we have Dr. Sid Chapman. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be in Savannah with
Thank
the
you for
Georgia
joining
School
us.
Boards Association.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us and sitting with us today.
It's my pleasure.
Now, I do have one question for you.
Okay.
What are your plans and goals for public education?
Okay. As an educator, I am a certified high school teacher, and I am the current president of the Georgia Association of Educators. I'm almost at the end of my term.
Okay.
And so my plan is, I've spent over 20 plus years advocating for public education, and almost 29 years as a classroom teacher and an advocate. So my plan is to keep working for fully funding public education. You can't accomplish what you need to accomplish without the funding. So we need definitely to work on funding. The governor gave $167 million this year, but we need to make sure that education is funded every year. We had $9 billion of cuts and furloughs and austerity cuts over the last decade. It's going to be hard to recoup that. So teachers and support professionals and the students are the ones that have to pay the price for that. So it is an investment in something that we need to do.
And we also spoke briefly about technical and vocational programs. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, as a person who has taught in the public schools, I know that every student does not benefit by just totally preparing to go for a liberal arts education, go to college. There should be alternatives that could include vocational and technical education. The seal for the diploma changed some years ago. Maybe we could do an endorsement kind of thing on that instead of changing the seal for vocational education if the student so desires. Get the core classes and then make up their minds of what they want to do. We need to make sure, well, the arts is another thing. That's why we need to fund the arts. There are many students that want to go to a school that, is about the arts. And so if the arts are not in the public schools, then they are lacking there. And so they need to be able to have the opportunity to expand their dreams.
I can definitely appreciate that, that's
Yes.
for sure. And you also mentioned Army teachers and funding. Can you expand on that as well?
Well, with the issues of safety in schools today, and I spent yesterday at a Senate forum in Atlanta at North Springs High School, and I've listened all across the country with all of the escalation of shootings in schools is a horrible thing. And I heard students say, now for the first time in my life I go to school, worried will I go home? How horrible is that? And so there have been a lot of things said, how do we address this? And one of those things is arming teachers. I feel that arming teachers is not in the best interest of public education. I am an educator. I have the pulse of educators. I listen to them all the time. I've only heard one teacher say that they would be willing to go through those classes and have a gun in their class. Now, my thing is, if students can find my tests, they can find my weapon. And that's a recipe for disaster there. So we definitely do not need teachers. We need to look at innovative ways for safety, not make the school a prison, have armed guards all over the place. There's technology that can isolate an intruder. We have to fund it though. There's surveillance that would have rapid response from law enforcement. I've talked to military people, former law enforcement that are educators now, and they say what people are not thinking that most of these shooters are students. Are you ready to shoot a student? No. And so we need to be able to address the psychological and social issues that come along with that. And with all the cuts, we need to partner with mental health facilities, social workers. They get identified, but there's never any follow-up. And so, bullying and the the internet bullying. And so when we have these students that need this help and they're identified and they're tagged, we need to follow up on it and make sure they get the services that they need and prevent this kind of thing. It's a horrible thing. And so that's very much on the forefront now.
Thank you so much for addressing that, and you brought up some really good points. Are there any final things that you'd like to say to our viewers?
Well, of course, fully funding education, public education, and keeping the arts, fully fund the arts, not use public education for vouchers or what have you, to change the seal for the certificate or diploma if needed, to make sure that we have teacher retirement kept as it is, as a guaranteed benefit, not just a contribution. And we need to recruit and retain the best and the brightest to come into this field. And so we need to reduce the amount of standardized testing, all the paperwork, look at the different ways of evaluation, make it livable. We always go overboard. That's always been my experience as an educator. They start something every year or something changes. We need to look at what and listen to teachers and treat educators as professionals. It is a profession. It's not just people that walk off the street. People prepare for this, and where the greatest teachers are treated with the greatest respect, rather, and the highest literacy rates are in those systems where they're treated as professionals. I went to Finland, studied their whole system, and teachers spend 4 years, then they go and finish their master's and get accepted into teacher school, and they have an internship, and every school is funded equally, and teachers are funded, and it's respect, and trust, and that's where we're going to make the difference. We got to change our mindset about public education and how we treat the people that go into the field of education.
Well, Dr. Chapman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.